2. Gotta be the best Cube video casts on all the internet and pertains to Magic the Gathering, wouldn't you say?
The best bi-monthly video recorded Cube-based podcast.
By men over 25, over 200 pounds.
On the West Coast.
Yes, in this time slot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're really hitting a lot of key demos.
Yes. We are recording as the Star City Games Invitational in Las Vegas is going up, which I gotta tell you, if you're watching this live, I'd rather be watching that.
And the Mox, right? Or was the Mox earlier today?
Magic Online is in such a state of disarray, I don't even acknowledge its existence.
Well, and interestingly enough, Party was talking about this online. Yeah. Apparently, the Mox went live today with a
Broken Jace.
With Broken Jace, Architect of Thought, and people were none too pleased. Magic Online,
we should somehow find a way to port that to the Cube format that we play. Like, we have achievements.
We
have theme decks. Yeah, like, we just need to show up one day that we do like a... what's like, you ever played one of those games where like you shuffle, like at the beginning of every round or something, you shuffle up something, there's like a random rule added?
Yeah.
It's like we'll just like shuffle up this big stack of random shit where it's like, your Jace Architect of Thought now crashes your game, you lose if you ultimate it or something.
Yeah, like
find random bug when you put Rancor on a white creature, like...
Chain Lightning when you fork it back, like both players have to leave. Just get up and walk out of the door.
You guys now have to go on a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
It's mandatory. I'm sorry. We'll call it MTGO Cube Theme Week.
Yeah.
We'll go to a store and we'll just start.
We'll draft and play 2 rounds and then pick everyone's decks up and throw them in the garbage.
Can we also say extremely insulting things to our opponents and then walk to the bathroom for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We have to come back every once in a while and like tap a lane, not tap it, and leave again.
Good evening, Kenny. Long time no see. Glad you're here this evening. I hope you're dual screening us with the hot Star City Games coverage, which again I wish we were watching now. But we'll talk about Cube because it's so exciting, and not even the internet would let our show die. No matter how busy we have been doing other shit the last couple of months. Pop on Reddit this week, and it's like, what happened to all the Cube podcasts? At one point, there were a ton.
I felt kind of bad, It was like, look at Twitter, and it's like, nothing. Why haven't you recorded a video in a month? I'm like, oh, I feel bad now.
Yeah.
We have been trying, I swear.
We have been trying. We've come so close several times. We have been here. We've had the show notes.
It's the end of the year.
I can't even use an excuse like we got drunk and wandered off. It was.
I went to work and wandered off. That was about what happened. So.
Ooh, hatch one.
It's
important. Everyone listening to this not live will be very excited by the things we're going to say on the sidelines today.
Yeah, definitely.
But for those of you that have turned in after the fact, you're listening to this wherever you may find it these days, thank you again for your patronism, your viewership, listenership, etc., etc. It's been a lot has happened since we've left you in the word.
I feel like we missed the real Moto apocalypse.
That had nothing to do with us.
No, but it was kind of like an
playing Magic that couldn't crash.
Yeah, but there was queues up during the Moto
for the
apocalypse.
few in the privilege. I like how they got to double dick us, but they got to fuck MTGO over.
Right, I was like, oh, Cube queues, awesome, 15 QPs, never mind.
Right, so everyone that stuck with it through Shittown now got to come in and and play, which was really frustrating because it's like I skipped out a lot of Moto because it was so terrible, and then you bring back the thing I love about Moto and just wave it in my face and be like, no, not for you.
You're not. Yeah, only for successful people. The velvet roped format.
But enough about Magic Gathering Online. Thankfully, you're here to listen to us talk about a format that can't crash on you all the time, that you can't log into and have your Jace kick you out of a match.
Unless Google Drive goes down, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, so this evening we'll be covering pretty much year in review for Cube. Now, for those of you that caught me on Heavy Meta this week, I did much more extensive year in review. Definitely check that show out for my feelings on, pretty much everything. But here we'll be talking about the best of the year for Cube, the worst. Are we currently under Hearthstone or something?
No.
Okay, good. Just checking. I don't know where we put us. The best of the year for Cube, the worst of the year for Cube, and sadly the
dearly departed.
Yes,
in memoriam.
Those that have left Cube. So yeah. And when I say the worst of Cube, I mean things that we thought would be good and immediately were wrong about.
Yeah, instantaneously.
Sometimes way too long after the fact, and we had to be hit in the head to realize it.
But I think before we do any of that, the one thing everyone is really actually sad to see go, at least from the responses I've seen, picks. Scenarios.
These have been written so long ago that I have no idea what we're about to look at.
It's all right. Let's get right into it.
Pick one, pack one for today, Eck. Tell the people at home while I take a swig here what we've got.
Today we are looking at me with a throat problem. Gristlebrand, Elvish Mystic, Geralf's Messenger, Lightning Helix, Curse of Predation, Sensei's Divining Top, Mana Drain, Fire Drinker Satyr, Increasing Confusion, Guardian Idol, Mox Emerald, Lodestone Golem, Chandra Nalar, Rocky Tar Pit, Batterskull. This is a considerably higher powered pack than we're normally used to.
Yeah, I think this is really an exercise in what cards can outweigh a Mox. Now, for those of you that are dedicated listeners / viewers of the show, you will know that we play with a 700 card powered cube, which is pretty out there for a lot of people. I know that I've gotten a lot of requests that we review other cubes and show viewpoints about smaller cubes, theme cubes. What are you going to make that tribal cube, Eck? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we usually skip over ones like this because if there's a Mox in it, generally that's what we're taking. So here we have to weigh it. Is Mana Drain that powerful?
No,
it's not that powerful.
The problem is that Mana Drain is very powerful, but if you're not always going to play it, right? It doesn't fit into every deck.
I mean, if I'm drafting, it probably doesn't. But yes, I understand what
you're saying. But if you're not planning on being immediately, I'm going to play blue and commit to it immediately, Mana Drain doesn't always fit. Whereas even an off-color Mox, even though it's a Mox Emerald, you're not saying I'm going to play green. You're
saying that I'm going to accelerate at some point. It's going to be good,
right? I think that it's interesting because I think the two swingiest in terms of immediately winning the game cards in the cube are Mana Drain and the artifact rocks that are
fast mana.
The fast mana artifact rocks.
Lotus, yeah.
It's very so many games just end when you counter their 3-drop and drop a Titan or something.
Wormcoil Engine, most notably.
Wormcoil Engine, anything, just dropping huge bombs on people. But at the same time, any of the Moxes or Lotus or Sol Ring, just jump you out so far ahead that it's just very difficult to lose.
Alright, so we take the Mox Emerald here. Pretty universally, we agree on that. If we're the guy downwind of this, and we get past this pack, now is the time to take that Mana Drain?
Absolutely. I think it's also very obvious.
Let's say I first picked Lightning Bolt, and then I got past this 14-card pack.
Yeah, you're still taking Mana Drain.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think about this card. If I took Stoneforge Mystic or something, but that's getting too deep. In this particular scenario, I think that it's just important to point out that we're getting close to what you would take over a Mox. Mana Drain, I think, is close, but it's not close enough. So if you get faced with something similar to this in your powered cube drafts in the near future, I still think it's always right to take that Emerald.
I think the issue is just I preach a lot about not committing too early and using your early picks for powerful cards that will see play in any deck. And Mana Drain is a card that is certainly very, very powerful, but just is much more narrow in its application. You're not going to splash for it.
Mana Drain is so powerful that I feel it should be backer-ratted to mana burn you.
Yeah.
Because now you can just... I've been playing Mana Drain so long, there were definitely times where it was a...
liability.
Yeah, it wasn't always the hastiest.
When you're countering Darksteel Colossus, you're
man, who was casting that?
I don't know.
Either way, so we have a Mox Emerald, but that one was so short and so sweet. I believe we have a second one this week.
We had another one.
Okay.
We're making up for lost time. Alright, this is much more used to what we're looking at. So, this pack, we are looking at Sakura Tribe Elder, Staff of Domination, Chandra Pyromaster, Murderous Redcap, Diregraph Ghoul, Necrotal, Aetherling, Winter Orb, Bribery, Goblin Guide, Rishadan Port, Life from the Loam, Paladin Invec, Miscalculation, Ninja of the Deep Hours.
It feels like the time to take Goblin Guide.
I really like Goblin Guide, but that's also a personal preference. I really like the mono red deck. I think it's a Goblin Guide is the best card in the mono red deck, and I think that I enjoy drafting it, but I know not everybody does. I think that if you don't feel like you're inclined to play the mono 1-drops aggro red deck, I really like taking that Aetherling. I think it's the second most powerful card in the pack.
Staff of Domination can go infinite in the cube with something as simple as Raphelos. It's not like it's a key component to a combo deck in our cube. Our cube doesn't really have a lot of purely combo cards. Like there's no Voltaic Key, no Time Vault.
Staff is more just an excellent mana sink for the late game.
Yeah, a lot of the would-be brown decks, although again, we don't have Mishra's Workshop, we don't have something that's we don't have Tolarian Academy. Metalworker. There's still a lot, there's all the Basalt, Monolith, Thran, Dynamo, Rock-style artifacts, and Staff Domination can just be a value card for a lot of those decks. The decks where you're taking Karn very highly. Sorry, that's... For those listening after the fact, we're answering questions in the chat here, although the chat is pretty happy with Goblin Guide, and then some various blue cards. I feel like I would be championing those blue cards, and I feel like if this pack didn't have a Goblin Guide, I'd be tempted to take Aetherling.
I think that it's interesting because the chat is really strongly pushing for Bribery as the non-Goblin Guide pick.
Talk about a card that's overvalued, I feel.
So I think a lot of where people really like Bribery comes from is historically in Cube it's been very good. But a lot of the positive experiences people have had with it, let's say, are from years past where Cube was much more about, Mono Dragon Cube. We talked about the Wild West, years ago, of everyone just playing nothing but bombs. Bribery was just a complete street beating because everyone was playing nothing but 8-drops, so getting one for 5 was just such a cheat that it was always good.
It was kind of like a strange seeding song for whatever was in your opponent's deck. Your first fatty would hit the table a little sooner. And
I think that over time, Bribery has gotten worse. There are fewer decks that just get crushed by it, by taking their one massive threat.
I feel confident in saying this. I think the creature that I Briberied out most in 2013, because I played Bribery a fair share, probably a little too much in Cube because of my love of blue. I can say pretty definitively that the creature I got most with Bribery was Hellrider.
Right. So the increased presence of aggressive decks, the aggro red deck was not really a thing, a couple years ago. Aggro black. There are a lot of decks that just don't have targets that you want to pay 5 mana on your own turn to go get. Right. Now, that's not to say there are not decks that have super powerful individual creatures that you can snap off, but a lot of times the decks that are playing those are playing them in a way to cheat them into play. So Bribery might not even necessarily be fast enough. Bribery versus Tinker, or Bribery versus Reanimate in general is a hard race.
It can be an interesting game. I mean, there's obviously still play to the card, which is why we play it.
Even something like Oath.
Yeah.
So I think that the decks overall in Cube have gotten a lot faster and a lot smaller. And Bribery has not done either of those things over the last several years. I think it's certainly fine, but it's not anything that I'm... if this was 3 or 4 years ago, I would be slamming that Bribery, out of this pack.
Sure. 3-4 years ago, yes.
Right. But I think
this year, even though it's almost the end of 2013, Goblin Guide pretty safely?
Yeah, and I think that the non-Goblin Guide pick, I think, is Aetherling.
Okay.
I really like Aetherling. It's effectively a 7-drop, but it's one of the best blue finishers.
If not the best.
Yeah.
One of the best cards of the year we'll get to later, not to get too far ahead of ourselves.
But I definitely like Aetherling over Bribery in this pack I was not taking the Goblin Guide.
I agree.
So, gosh dang. We also have some scenario picks as well. Again, making up for lost time with all these. So, the first scenario we're going to look at, this is, for those who are uninitiated, this is the middle of a draft. You are 4 picks in. The picks you have taken thus far are Cryptic Command, Shriekmaw, Path of Exile, The Abyss. The pack you are past contains the following cards: Grafted Wargear, Steam Vents, Ball Lightning, Student of Warfare, Garrick Primal Hunter, Tinker, Assemble the Legion, Sire of Insanity, Serende Befreet, Bonfire of the Damned, Searing Spear.
Oh, that is not good for us.
Yo, dog, I heard you like cards that cost triple colored mana. So I put 2 more in this pack, so you can have more of them.
Yeah, I think one of the moves we may be making in 2014 is bringing in the Shadowmoor filters. I've been so close to pulling the trigger on putting Graven Karens and Sunken Ruins in the cube to try to help out black, just the color black. And at that point, we're playing,
7 of 10.
Yeah. We might just want to cave and play the rest. And, just packs and picks like this kind of reiterate that I may need to readdress that scenario in the coming year. But for now, here I am looking at triple blue, some sweet black, and I'd want to play that Path to Exile. I'd love to play an Esper control deck today.
The problem is so you have a bunch of excellent cards, and you clearly want to play all of them because they all work well together. But you really have already 4 picks in have already forced yourself into a situation where if you see any, dual lands or Arcane Sanctum or anything like that, you have to take it pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I agree right now. With the Path to Exile in my pool and the Cryptic Command in my pool and 2 good black cards, anything that touches on Esper for mana fixing, I'm going to be taking.
Right.
So we're really like teased.
Simultaneously, some people have been messaging about Steam Vents or cards like that. I'm already very disinterested in touching on another color.
Oh, see, I was thinking like, if we get the Steam Vents, then we can activate our Rugged Prairie or our non-existent Graven Karens, or have an easier time with our Cascade Bluffs. So, I think we're pretty clearly taking a 3-mana blue spell here. Can we agree on that?
I think we can agree on that.
All right. Now the question is, do we take the very underloved, still a powerhouse of a card, I think, Serendib Befreet? The guy still never gets nearly enough love. Or do we go for high risk, high reward here and just snap off the Tinker in our control deck where we could probably hope to wait around for the stuff that it'll benefit from, and at the same time, artifact creatures work pretty well with our Abyss, so maybe that's a little more incentive.
So I feel like my argument against Serendib Befreet in this situation is that Serendib's role is usually to buy the blue deck time. It's not necessarily a win condition, though it can certainly do that. It does not play well with a lot of the cards, especially the 3 non-Cryptic Command cards we have in our pool so far. We've already got 2 removal spells, 2 pinpoint removal spells, and a persistent removal spell in the Abyss. Serendib dies to the Abyss, so that's kind of a non-bow. And additionally, his value as a blocker goes down a lot when we can easily remove creatures. Like, if we have Serendib Befreet, Shriekmawing your only guy, or Path to Exiling your only guy isn't nearly as good because now you don't get to block anything with Serendib. You're not really getting a whole lot of usage out of him. And I think that Tinker is... You're not giving up a lot by taking Tinker here. Like, Serendib's fine, but it's not stellar, and it doesn't... Like I said, it doesn't really play well with the cards in this pack. But if you manage to, rattle off some artifacts or see an Equal Leviathan or something, all of a sudden that Tinker pays off massively.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we saw in the previous 3 packs. Like, for example, had there been the Blightsteel, or had there been the Inkwell, or had there been... I mean, those 2 may come back. I don't think Battlesphere would come back. Even Sphinx of the Steelwind works really well in our deck. I mean, there's definitely... I could definitely see that. I just think that Serendib doesn't get enough love. I think that it does play great defense, just like you say, but it's also kind of like a mini Morphling where it's got a big butt.
I mean, but that's the thing. You don't need that in this deck. Like, you're planning on defending yourself with the Abyss and Pinpoint removal, which you already have 2 pieces of.
All right. Well, I'll go with it. I think that
in addition, you're Esper, so you have access to the most Wraths.
Sure. Like, let's replace that Serendib Befreet with Dissipate or Dissolve here. Does that change your opinion much? You still want to take that Tinker?
It has to be the double blue counter spells too.
It has to be. It's not Mana Leak.
Yeah.
Come on, I don't make.
Well, Complicate.
Sure.
Complicate's at least kind of an interesting decision. I think I still would rather have the Tinker there.
Okay.
Just because it could pay off huge, and you're not giving up a ton by not taking that Serendip Efreet. But again, I think that it's like taking a Steam Vents or a card that needs red, which would be like kind of the obvious thing in this pack, either the Assemble the Legion or the Bonfire or something like that, if you were to take a red card, is really ambitious, and then locks you into anytime you see a land, you have to take it regardless of what else is in the pack if you want to play those cards. So I think I like Tinker is like a weirdly safe pick, just because you're not giving, like, Tinker could very easily just be on the sidelines if you don't see anything good with it, and it won't affect your deck too much.
Same with that Steam Vents, but yeah, the reward is less for taking the Steam Vents.
Yeah. Alright, so in another scenario, in this one, we are looking at, so far, we have Chain Lightning, Thragtusk, Guardian Idol, G2 Slinger. The pack we are past contains Gilded Drake, Blistering Firecat, Innocent Blood, Disciple of Bolas, Vampire Nighthawk, Sphinx of Dwar Isle, Hero's Downfall, Wooded Foothills, Maze of Ith, Stagger Shock, a Quarter Paladin.
Okay, this one seems very easy.
Okay.
I'm taking that Wooded Foothills.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay. Alright, well, I'm glad we're doing this. I take Wooded Foothills with the intent of playing either Blistering Firecat or, let's be fair, Stagger Shock's no way it's coming back, so I'm taking the Wooded Foothills with the intent to play the Blistering Firecat when I get it back.
Wow. I never want to play... So this deck is already looking very mid-rangey to me.
Okay.
The fact that we have a Guardian Idol and a G2 Slinger, which are very not aggro cards. Thragtusk is a very not aggressive card. We have a Chain Lightning for removal, which is, it's fine, it's just premium removal. I think I would much rather have a card like Stagger Shock here, and rather than... So, like, we've had these shows in the past where we talk about kind of the roles that the two-color decks fall into, and kind of like what they do best, or the common lines for them.
Yeah. Red-green is getting the short end of the stick most of the times.
Well, red-green is just not getting the aggressive side of the stick. Like, red-green is not a deck necessarily often where you want, like, the Goblin Guides and the Fire Drinker Satyrs. It's the deck where you want the Huntmaster the Fells and
Chameleon Colossus,
like the bigger stuff.
Craterhoof Behemoth.
It's a better spot for the red Planeswalkers. It's a better place for cards like even like Bloodbraid Elf, is not like it's a better mid-range card.
I agree with you there, and because of that, I want to play as much red as I can in my deck, and I probably at this stage want to play as little green in my deck as I can. If I'm the red mage, I'm not only excited to have Thragtusk, but I'm ecstatic not to have to play against it. So I'm taking that Foothills with the intent to kind of minimize my green and hopefully maximize on my red.
Yeah, but if you do that, I mean, you're effectively, if your goal is to say, I'm going to play the aggressive red deck, given the cards you have right now, you have a one-card deck. Because if you're going to play the aggressive red deck, you don't want 5-drops, you don't want mana rocks, and G2 Slinger is so behind the curve for that deck that it would be a very bad sign if it's in your 40.
Yeah.
Whereas a card like Stagger Shock is good removal. It plays well in the aggressive red deck as well, as just either for you in the face or a 2/2. And again, red green also is a color combination that's not exactly lacking in fixing. It's pretty easy if you want it to get a fair amount of it, between elves and Secure Tribe Elder and Rampant Growths and things like that if you want to fix.
I mean, I can understand you kind of hedging your bets by taking Stagger Shock, thinking maybe you still end up being aggro red. Maybe you guys, maybe you're that mid-range red-green deck you keep talking about. Either way, you're going to play that card. I just think that fixing is still fixing, and I have one green mana symbol in a pool where I'd like to get as many red mana symbols in my pool as possible. Right,
and I just don't see, at this point, the incentive for playing this slower red-green mid-range deck seems higher, just because Thragtusk individually is so powerful.
I guess. I don't know. Red-green mid-range is one of the least impressive decks in all of Cube.
I don't know. I've had some fairly decent success with it. And this is also a deck where you could potentially just, go up to, like, the Wildfires, if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Times where I wouldn't mind having Stagger Shock or Wooded Foothills. I mean, both of those cards work well in a Wildfire deck.
I'm not saying you wouldn't play Wooded Foothills. I'm just saying I would rather have Stagger Shot.
Or Burn. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah.
Whoa. So much going on.
So, anyway, if you've been listening if you're listening to this now and you follow us on Twitter or on Reddit, things like that, you'll know that recently we just wrapped up a rotisserie draft of the cube. And for those unfamiliar, basically what we did, and this is a great thing that actually worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to.
Eck was ever the pessimist for this.
I had my doubts.
I was surprised.
It worked out better than I thought.
The draft itself took what, 2.5 days?
2.5, 3 days. So basically, what we did is our cube list is published. It's on CubeTutor, so everyone has access to it. The two of us and 6 of our friends, we all got together. We exchanged email addresses, things like that, and we created a Google spreadsheet that was ordered by. We had a layout. I'll put it up on the screen now. And what we did is we drafted the cube in rotisserie format, which means that rather than have packs, every card is available. It's more kind of like fantasy football, if you're familiar with that.
I feel like I've posted some pictures online before of previous iterations of rotisserie draft. Now, normally when we go to do these things, we take a Saturday, we take a Sunday, we go to our local game store, we take up half a dozen tables, and we lay all the cards out, and everyone comes in and slowly drafts their decks. And
it's kind of a spectacle.
Yeah, it's fun to look at. It's fun to see all the cards out there.
It takes a long time. It's a big investment, but then you play right away.
Yeah.
In this situation, what we did is we didn't have the time. We wanted to do it, but we couldn't figure out a good schedule. So what we did is we set this document up, and the way it worked is we all kind of exchanged phone numbers and emails and everything else.
I was on various forms of media to get everyone to...
I was working a lot of different... I had text going, emails, Facebook messages.
SCG Oakland, was that last weekend? I think that was last weekend. Yeah, I was shooting a different project. That's why I would have come up there and hang out with Zach, but I was busy.
So we then drafted and kind of... Everybody knew the order, so when it got to be the next guy in line, it was kind of your responsibility to be hey, your pick, put it in. So we then went through so we got 45, as you can see. We got all the picks in here.
And it's funny because somebody was like, 45, that's too many. You guys could probably get away with fewer picks. There's probably a lot of dead picks in there. I don't know about you, but I felt like every single pick was important.
I do too.
Okay. So those of you thinking about trying this at home, I think they're all important.
If you've never rotisserie drafted before, it's kind of interesting because everyone for the most part, everyone kind of immediately tips their hand about what they're trying to do. So the first 2 picks are very straightforward. If you look,
maybe I don't know.
The pick order went Recall, Mox, Time Walk, Mox, Lotus, Soul Ring.
And there's already a ton of debate to be had just in those first 8 picks.
Yeah. So, and everyone has, but it very quickly went to okay, we got a blue deck, we got a Stoneforge deck, we got Tinker was taken in the 3rd round, we've got, early, picks that are all kind of very straightforward. And
I mean, with a powered cube and the size that we play, a lot of people would kind of equate it to just doing a vintage draft, where you don't even need the cards, you don't even need to have the set kind of boundaries that we had for the cube, and people will just draft all the cards of Magic. And this is something that's actually probably a little more popular than what we've been doing, and that definitely has to be more open-ended. And when you go into those scenarios, you want to kind of show up with 2, 3, 4 different plans. I think the cube kind of helps guide you to know where the plans are. It's super broad. I'll take food chain.
Everyone,
what's up with that?
Everyone in the draft has cube drafted several times before. It's not like it's anything new, and so everyone kind of knew what they liked, what they didn't like, strategies that were available.
But it's still very organic, and it mutates and adapts throughout the entire draft.
I did not plan on drafting the deck that I did.
I did not plan on drafting the deck I drafted, and mine looks the most basic. If you were just write out a deck list, what I assume what you would think of.
Right.
So we went in. I think we started like a Thursday afternoon because we draft every Tuesday night. When we're like, hey, you guys want to do this? Like, let's just try it. We're not going to lose anything. Like, Eck was like, people are going to DC. People
So I
disappear all day.
I had a very negative expectation of people's availability to do this at a reasonable rate.
All you got to do is near your phone.
Well, I also didn't realize that everyone was just going to text their picks into whoever was sitting at the computer all day. So it ended up working out in a reasonable amount of time. I think it took about 3 days. We
started Thursday afternoon. We were done by Saturday afternoon.
We tweeted about it. We posted a link on Reddit. We had people commenting and kind of spectating as it went along.
Which was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, now we just have to, because we actually haven't played the decks yet. I'm trying to find a way where we could try to do some video coverage on it, but everyone's schedules are so wonky. Like, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to swing that. Regardless, we will post deck lists when it's all said and done, so you can kind of get a little bit more of an in-depth on, like, what was the draft process. Obviously, as the two of us can sit here right now, we can go through the thought process that went into our draft, but that's not going to cover everybody.
Well, I mean, we could at least do ours. What was your thought process?
I feel like I unfortunately rolled first pick. I did not want first pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely wanted... I feel like 6, 7, and 8 are really good spots to be in for a draft like this. Being right up front, that...
I really like 8. I like 8 because of wheeling. I mean, 1 also. Like, I like being...
Eventually, and when you get to like the middle area of the draft, 1 and 8 can be pretty good. But right up front with 1, I mean, you can't take something that's super obvious and be transparent because people are gonna...
You can't just, like, slam reanimate.
People are gonna have 15 picks to come at you.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could just take one of the kind of hallmarks. I think that when it was when it was determined that I was going to go first, I looked at it as 3 different cards I could really take. I could take Lotus. I could try to go with a combo deck, something that was really explosive in 1 turn with colored mana. I could go Soul Ring just for the inherent advantage from most likely going from 2 to 4 mana, instead of having 2 mana on turn 2, having 4 mana, and so on and so forth. Or taking Ancestral Recall, pretty much in a vacuum, the most raw power card in all of Magic. Something that's going to be amazing to draw early, middle, late, and opening hand portions of the game.
For what it's worth, when we did this the last time and I had first pick, I took Recall as well.
Okay. I don't even remember.
I took Recall.
Now, there was a lot of people, there were especially ones that were spectating, that were just baffled by the fact that Soul Ring went all the way to 8th pick. But using the logic that I feel like I used to take Ancestral Recall, I feel like it made sense to me, whereas someone, the next person down the line immediately took Mox Ruby, and when I see that pick, I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be the aggro red player. That, this person made a conscious decision to take the red Mox because they know the person who's drafting 1 spot ahead of them most likely isn't going to be in red, and has already picked a color.
Right. The aggro red deck would rather have Ruby than Soul Ring because red mana symbols are such a premium in that deck.
Yeah. So that to me that perfectly explains pick 2. You go to Sapphire next, and I'm thinking, that's somebody who I know wants to play Blue Mage, and would rather cement that person would rather cement themselves in blue.
It didn't really work though.
Than take Soul Ring, because the wild card bitches part was that immediately after Sapphire,
Time Walk gets snapped off.
A player takes Time Walk, which I also don't fault. Similar to the Ancestral Recall argument,
just immediate. Like, battle lines were immediately drawn at that point.
Well, it was funny because I took Ancestral Recall thinking, okay, it's going to be many moons before I get to pick again. During that time, a lot of the brown cards are going to be gone. But I thought it was very possible for me to get Snapcaster Mage back, which was the card I wanted for sure. And then, I could take a Mana Drain, I could take, I could take Jace the Mind Sculptor, I could take a lot of things from there. So I was not expecting it to go Time Walk, and the player who took Time Walk took Snapcaster on the wheel, which, again, shouldn't be surprising. So by the time it made it back to me, I'd now lost 2 of the most important cards that I had wanted after taking Ancestral Recall. Losing out on Snapcaster Mage and Time Walk there really hurt. But moving past that, Eck, you took Pearl. Please explain to everyone at home why you took Pearl.
So my plan originally was I wanted to play... I wasn't exactly sure. I was thinking about possibly playing an aggressive deck, possibly playing some kind of zoo variant, and or playing depending on what other people took, playing like some kind of beatdown deck.
See, the nice thing about Rotisserie Cube is that normally when we cube draft, the decks don't kind of meld out into those archetypes so beautifully as in Rotisserie Draft, where there's clearly a control player, clearly a combo player, clearly an aggro player.
Yes.
And Eck was in a spot where, I think you could have rattled off a bunch of aggressive cards from there.
So I felt that in pretty much any deck that I wanted to play, my initial thought was, I want to be a fast aggressive deck, so I want the acceleration, obviously. But I also want access to white mana, specifically so that I could possibly splash Path to Exile and Source of Plowshares. Like, that was explicitly what I was thinking. Was like, I'm going to play, like, mono red aggro with a Mox Pearl, Source of Plowshares, and Path to Exile in it, and then, like, Plateau, Sacred Foundry, whatever.
Right.
Or, like, play Zoo and just have access. Like, in the aggressive decks, colored mana is so much more important than using... Like, you always want a 2-power 1-drop in Zoo or aggro red, so Soul Ring's not as good because you really want a guy on turn 1. Whereas, like, the Moxen don't interrupt your ability to play a 2-power guy on turn 1, but also let you potentially play, like, 2 of them, or play, a 3-power guy, something like that.
So, the Zoo concept for you died pretty quickly after the Mox Pearl, though. So if we go down the row, we've got the Mox Emerald gets taken next. Then Tobias in seat 7 here goes Lotus. Moses on the wheel finally takes the Soul Ring, and then takes a card that would end up looking really weird when it was all said and done. He takes Skull Clamp.
This Skull Clamp was one that kind of surprised me.
I think it surprised everybody. That was one of those cards where it was like, well, this could be good. This could be the backbone of a deck. We'll see things have to go. So on the way back, Tobias takes Mox Jet. So now the player in the 7th spot in our draft has Lotus Jet, which is, I'm a little envious. I kind of want to trade with him at that point.
Yeah.
George takes Library of Alexandria on the back, so he's got Emerald into Library, which could be good for the find library always strategy. Now it comes back to you, and it seems like you already renege on the concept of taking aggressive guys.
So the Skull Clamp being taken so early, 9th overall, was really a signal to me that, Moses was instantly cementing his status as he was going to play the aggro creatures deck, like small guys. So I didn't want to, especially fight someone who's on the wheel for cards like that.
Someone who could take back-to-backs. Who can
take... Well, it's like, if I take one drop, they get 2 of them.
Sure, like, you take Goblin Guide, he takes Spike Shield or Stormkirk Noble.
Whatever.
But you get the idea.
Yeah. So I didn't necessarily immediately want to start fighting with him, especially on the wheel. I was expecting more fighting from Vin in seat 2, but we're spaced enough apart that I wasn't too worried about it. So instead of going with the aggro plan, I took another card that can actually play both ways in Mana Crypt. Mana Crypt, again, doesn't interrupt you from playing early aggressive 1-drops. But it also just works well in a number of decks. Like, it's just a very, very powerful accelerant. And I felt that, like, it was one of the highest raw power level cards left at that point that was not color committing.
Okay. That makes sense. You take a brown card. So coming on the way back, we already mentioned Phil takes Snapcaster Mage. Now, at this point, I'm already starting to eliminate pathways. I'm thinking, like, well, I'm not going to play... like probably a counter-heavy blue deck if I've lost access to Snapcaster. I want to I've played like blue-green tempo in the past. That's really good. There were like 2 decks I really wanted to draft, and they were both bug colors. I really wanted to play either Oath of Druids, or I wanted to play like Strip Mine, Light from the Loam.
Of course you did.
Like, those were going in, like, that's what I want to do. So now I'm thinking, like, okay, the Snapmaster Mage has been taken. Some of the usual suspects have been taken. If I can get that Strip Mine to come back to me, I've got a sweet deck, like, locked and ready to go. And if I don't get that, now I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I could take, like, Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor. I could start to go down the combo road. Like, these are all things I could look into. So, on the way back, Zach immediately takes Strip Mine after taking Mox Sapphire, which is kind of like... All right. I mean, Strip Mine's a very, very powerful Magic card, so it's hard to fault that move.
And in talking with Vin, interesting that Vin was going to take the Strip Mine
yeah,
in that spot.
Definitely.
Because Vin was planning on playing the aggressive deck.
Right.
by Zach taking it, it completely forced it. It made Vin basically 180 on what his plan was, and just take Mana Vault as another extremely powerful non-committing card.
Similar to what you had done, it feels like Vin also did. Now, as soon as the card you really wanted, or you thought you read a signal really deep, you just stick with the brown acceleration. Vin seemed very elementary once the strip mine was taken that he would do that. And it makes sense he would have taken the strip mine too, because there's no way I'm going to take Goblin Guide, Lightning Bolt, Sulfuric Vortex. I mean, I could have taken Lightning Bolt. So anyway, he takes Mana Vault, it comes back to me. Now, I'm in the wheel, and I'm thinking like, all right, well, I have a chance here to do what most people don't have a chance to do, which is take Stoneforge Mystic and. We've done quite a few of these drafts in the past, and it's laughable. Someone takes Stoneforge Mystic,
and it's just equipment.
Yeah, before it gets back to that player, most of the stuff they want gets scooped up. Now,
so this is a good point also, talking about being on the wheel. Being on the wheel is great for drafting combo decks or decks that require specific cards, since you can snap them up in multiples
in
like
pairs,
that.
Yeah, being in pairs is pretty
it's harder to get hate. Like, you open yourself up to much more obvious hate because you're broadcasting what you're doing, but especially if like you get the two best cards for whatever you're doing, and then they get to eliminate a lot of like the middle ground players. So that's kind of like that's why I like the Stoneforge pick here.
I mean, I wasn't super stoked on it. Like, I didn't really want to play like Blue-White Fish or Blue-White Tempo or anything, but I was like, yeah, it's really, really good, and I can definitely beat the creature decks here by going Stoneforge. And instead of going Batterskull, I really wanted the GT, because the GT is the card that's going to break the creature mirrors. And if I'm playing the creature deck, I want to have the GT. So
in retrospect,
I would do it again the same way.
Really?
If I take Stoneforge second, I'd definitely take GT third. I am 100% happy with the way that panned out.
Okay.
Now, granted, I got to, if you're looking at this or you're listening to this later, many, 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 many moons later, I got to pillage the equipment pile,
right?
Including picking up that Batterskull in the 25th round of the draft, because I kept kind of like lowering it on my priorities, being like, no deck wants to take Batterskull just to play a Batterskull. Like, yeah, it's a great card, but they were doing other things, so I kept putting it off. And luckily, I got into a position where I could just kind of pick it up at a fortuitous time. I still want the GT. I mean, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking Moses is a creature deck. I'm thinking there's at least one other creature deck beyond Moses' deck. Now, Vin could still be a creature deck at this point, although, he could go big red on the mana. Who knows? Either way, I think that a lot of people going into it would just be like, oh, you Stoneforge Batterskull, like every day, you're just playing Legacy deck.
Yep.
And I'm like, no. Because the GT would never have made it back to me.
No. I actually think if you had done it in a different order, I think at least there are multiple decks that look very different. I think Moses is one of them.
If I do things differently?
Like, if you take the Batterskull, I think Moses gets the GT.
You don't think... Phil maybe would have even taken it.
I doubt it.
George would have taken it? George ended up taking creature cards?
I think George might have, but I think that at least one deck looks very good.
So instead of going round by round by round, I will say that our draft did not pan out. I mean, this particular rotisserie draft ended up being very unique, and not at all like any I've ever done before, because we definitely had a distinct lack of a zoo drafter. We definitely had a distinct lack of an aggro red drafter. We definitely had a distinct lack of a true combo deck drafter, despite the fact...
I feel like Moses was true to the combo game.
You don't think Vin was? Vin actually has the best combo deck out of anybody.
I mean, Vin has the Tinker deck, but Moses has like 17 combos.
But they're all bad.
No, they're kind of awesome if you put them all together.
Sure. So looking at Vin's pool versus looking at Moses' pool, Vin immediately takes a left turn on the whole scenario. Like, he sees that, the idea of going Ruby, Strip Mine, Goblin Guide has long since sailed. Now, he comes back in round 3 after I took Tiny Man with equipment and goes like, all right, I'm going to go spells. So his 3rd through 6th picks go Tinker, Mystical Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Ancient Tomb, which is a big game.
Yeah. I think that's... I really like what he did there. I think that...
I mean, keep moving down. You got Duress Inquisition of Kozilek, Thran Dynamo, and then he starts backing the shit up. He goes Upheaval, Basalt, Monolith.
Well, and because, especially once you take the Tinker, no one's going to fight you for the big targets. Like, you get the Inkwell Leviathan...
You could have. See, there
ostensibly,
technically, there could be a Reanimator deck. There could be Sneak.
It ended up not working out that well for him because of a couple guys down here.
I mean, Zach and I. So the way it kind of broke down with people fighting amongst themselves during the draft, Zach who went Sapphire into Strip Mine, and Phil, who went Time Walk into Snapcaster, and myself were all trying to take the blue cards. And somehow we're all starting to try to take the blue, white, and black cards. Like, there was, like, the Esper side of the table, and then there was the weird, like, creature combo side of the table on the other side, where Tobias, who initially went Lotus Jet Mind Twist, which at that point I would have traded pools with him.
Yeah.
Like, here's my Ancestral Recall Stoneforge, give me back that Lotus Jet Mind Twist. He goes down the Bazaar of Baghdad, him to Torak Recurring Nightmare world. Now he's, like, in kind of like black discard / reanimation plan, and he actually was able to kind of sandbag a lot of those cards into late. And then you got Moses on the wheel, who just goes off the combo deep end, and I feel like he kind of misprioritized a lot of his picks.
So what's interesting about Moses' deck is I actually really like what he's doing, in the sense that he declared very early with his picks. Like, he's going a very different route than a lot of us. Right?
I will give you that.
He takes Sneak Attack 5th, and at that point it's like very surprising. But he takes a lot of awesome cards that work with it, but are not only good with it. Like,
I don't know, immediately falling over the Revel Arc was really weird.
No, because it actually ends up being awesome because he has so much synergy in his deck.
Did he even get? Did no one?
He has the body double.
Sure, yeah, he has the body double
and the Karmic Guide.
He has I don't even think he has a Karmic Guide.
Did he not take the Karmic Guide?
No Karmic Guide.
No.
Does he have? He has Mirror Entity. I know he got that one, but he has to have. Oh, he has Gitu Slinger. All right, so he has one infinite combo of infinite damage with Gitu Slinger.
Well, and he also took the Kiki Jiki, and I think that was part of the problem. So,
he took Kiki Jiki super early.
So he took Kiki Jiki 7, and it's hard to hate out Sneak Attack targets because there's a lot of different directions you can go with it. But it's much easier to pinpoint target the Kiki Jiki deck.
Which is ironic because there's 3 different guys you can go infinite with it.
Right. So what ended up happening was, he took Kiki Jiki 7th, and then everyone kind of went about their own business. I think at the point at which he took the Restoration Angel,
which made me mad.
Right. Everybody kind of woke up, and when they woke up, you'll see Tristan, you took Pestermite 17th, which Moses was none too pleased with.
And on the way was the way back. Where was it? Like right in there. You took the.
No, that was later.
You took the Zealous Conscripts. Like
so, I was expecting Moses to take Zealous Conscripts in the next pile, but he didn't. He ended up taking Debtor's Down Triskelion.
He took some Academy Rector targets.
Yes. So
kind of.
At that point, I felt
he did not get the Yogg bargain too, which is weird.
Yeah. At that point, I felt okay. Maybe he's off that a little bit. And my plan at this point, so my draft had gone very different. I had taken Co-Relic, Chromatic Lantern, Mox Diamond very early, and Balance. My plan was to kind of be a very strong against creatures balance deck with a bunch of mana rocks. And one of the things I was planning on including was Zealous Conscripts and Greater Gargadon. Gargadon more so than Conscripts, but I felt that
you did it in the reverse order in order to get Moses' Conscripts?
Well, no, I felt that Conscripts is a more likely to be taken by somebody.
Oh, somebody. I felt like come on. We all knew one person was taking it.
But I felt that Gargadon had a better chance of surviving the round. Because I was planning on taking it here. So it was like, Conscripts
in the
this way.
So after Moses goes Kiki Jiki, and then he goes Restoration Angel in the 14th round or 15th round.
Yeah.
By the time it comes back to me, I was like, okay, well, like I missed out on Vendilion Click. Like I'm playing like pretty much like Fish. Like I don't want to tap out. I'm fighting with Phil because Phil's taking my Force of Wills and my Ponders and my Remands, my Delver of Secrets and my Days. Like it looks like Phil's trying to play blue-white, like the exact same deck I'm trying to play. We're fighting each other. And I'm like, I'm running out of guys that I can cast at instant speed. Alright, so I'm going to do a double duty. I'm going to take the Pestermite away from Moses and also play my deck, and also take Aven Mind Sensor to have another one of these, like, you know, evasion-y, flashy creature guys. When it's all said and done, I don't know if either of those cards will actually end up making my deck. But I wanted to have them at the time, and I'm glad I have access to them.
Yeah. So, for me, what ended up happening was I ended up inadvertently fighting a lot with Moses because of color choices. I ended up going like a red-white. I took the Wildfire and the Burning of Zinni, kind of the 15th, 16th round or so. So I wanted to be the like big board sweeper, blow up the world deck. Originally, actually, I thought I could tank a little longer on the Armageddon, but as soon as George took one, it was going this direction. So I was following immediately the Armageddon. I wanted both, and once he took one, I didn't want either.
Okay.
It was like I could have taken, instead of Lightning Heals, I could have taken Ravages here, but I only wanted Ravages if I could also have Armageddon.
Okay.
So I ended up going into red, burning his Eve, Wildfire, things like that, and I since I took so much mana fixing early, I really had a lot of options. So I wanted to do things that...
It's funny because of all that mana fixing, you did not take a dual land until the 36th round of the draft.
Right. Because I didn't need to.
All right.
It was a situation...
I still think you were at a very luxury spot. Normally when we do these drafts, the dual lands, the fixing, it was very, very high.
Right.
I was surprised at how late one of the basic 10 duels lasted.
Yeah, I got bad lands to the 36th round.
Which is unheard of in our drafts. But then again... considering some other red cards.
And to the most, Volcanic Island went 8th, we've got Taiga up here, Savannah went in the 4th round.
Which was a little weird. I think if we were going to segue over into surprise picks of the draft, like what were the most shocking moments as you've watched the spreadsheet fill in?
The direction Tobias one I felt was strange.
Really? I felt like I could
It's cool, but I didn't see it coming necessarily.
His deck made sense to me, and his draft process, I feel I understood it.
Zach's deck also surprised me because of just the complete disregard for colored mana commitments.
Oh man, Zach thought he was going to tangle with me on one side and blue-white. He takes a Tundra in the 6th round after I took the Flooded Strand, followed by Brainstorm in the 4th and 5th. And then he's got Phil on the other side. Phil goes Caracas, Geist-Saint Draft in his 8th and 9th round picks. And now Zach's kind of sandwiched between stuff, so he goes the other direction and goes Underground Sea, Liliana the Veil, followed by Cryptic Command Treachery. And he's all of a sudden, he's Esper all over the place.
But later on, he takes a Thragtusk late.
He starts to go into green because because of the dual lands that were left open.
He's just got a lot. He's just kind of all over the map.
He's got a lot of mana-intensive cards in his pool, and I'll be very interested to see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
But, I don't think anything Zach took super surprised me.
Well, we also play a lot with Zach, so, this is Zach that deck. This is, every card he
did anything I took during the entire draft surprise you?
No.
There was never a single time where you're like, wow, I can't believe you took that?
To be honest, this is kind of, my deal, too.
I was surprised how quickly, or how high, Orum's Thunder and Disenchant went in the draft. Those were cards I definitely thought I was going to have a chance to pick up late.
Yeah, well, Disenchant went very early.
Yeah, it was like Phil was reading my notes. It was very annoying that Phil took... he took a 20th round for Disenchant. I go, maybe...
Well, Disenchant goes, Aura's Silence goes, Fate's Fetters goes, and all of a sudden I'm getting worried because I need to get something, I had the Vindicate... So the Vindicate was actually an interesting thing because once I took the Vindicate, I realized all these, there's not a lot of really aggro-y decks. There's a fair amount of bigger mana controllers. I could just take the Stone Rain, the Pillage, and play.
You got the Molten Rain too, right?
Yeah. So my deck ended up having a bunch of packages. So I could play the LD deck against the slower control decks. And I could play sweepers like Wrath of God, Anger of the Gods against creature decks and kind of go either way. So a lot of my cards I kind of took with the intent of rather than this is going to be awesome all the time, I took a lot of cards that are this is going to be good here, this is going to be good here. I've got these multiple versions. Interesting. So I've got a big chunk of cards that I'm going to be changing out kind of depending on who I'm playing against. So anyway, the document is up. We've linked to it a bunch. I'll put it on the website as well in case you want to review, ask questions.
This is definitely one for the books. I can't imagine a draft will ever go like this ever again. I'm glad we have the spreadsheet of this. If we'd laid all these cards out on a Saturday afternoon and just drafted this, it would not have ended anywhere close to how it came in this time. I think that there would be more aggressive decks. Which it's weird because with the spreadsheet, you'd think it'd be even easier to kind of figure out what people are doing.
Yeah.
But it almost felt other than some strange Moses hate, No one really like aggressively attacked other players in the draft for their cards. Like, there was definitely times where I was worried I wasn't going to get as many of my little cheap creatures as I wanted to, and I wanted to like position my picks in the right where I was like, okay, hard counter, 1-drop. All right, next time it comes back, one drop, counter again. All right, with pretty good there.
Yeah.
Let's go with something similar.
So it was a lot of fun. It worked out better than I thought it would.
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing this more frequently now that we know that we can get the spreadsheet version to work. It's ironic that the scheduling of the gameplays is more
difficult
than the
getting
draft
8 people
portion.
to actively contribute to a spreadsheet on the internet.
Because when Eck and I were brainstorming this, the reverse seemed a lot harder. It was like, dude, we can get 8 people to show up on a Sunday to store, no problem.
Yeah.
The problem is getting people to sign into the spreadsheet to ever draft.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. So, yeah, definitely try this out at home if you haven't. And again, now you don't even have the excuse where it's like, oh, it's really hard to get all my friends together to do one of these drafts during the week. Now you can do it all by text message, Facebook message, tweet, email.
Carrier pigeon, smoke signal.
Whatever the case may be.
Giant Batman light on your roof.
Does that mean red card or green card?
So, we had mentioned earlier, it's the end of the year. We're getting down there. It's been a big year for Cube in general.
There's so many set releases.
A lot of set releases, a lot of cards. So we thought, what better way to kind of wrap up the year than with some top fives lists of cards that we liked, cards we didn't like, things like that. So let's start off right out the gate. These are going to be our top 5 letdowns.
Oh, all right.
These are going to be.
We'll start on the low note. We'll bring it up from there.
Yeah, we'll go up. We'll go up and then we'll bring it back down.
For the tears, the teary-eyed. I do have to stop you. I cannot believe you have someone on your contact list named Grand Theft Hippo. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's an email address.
I know it's an email address. Yeah. I don't care what it is. That's almost as good as take my goddamn couch.
Free goddamn couch.
Either way, I want both those email addresses.
So
for Craigslist use only.
Top 5 letdowns. So these are cards that, on paper, on spoiler day, looked awesome. They were like snap includes. They were incredible. Like, these were going to be home runs.
I don't feel that way about all 5 of them, but I definitely feel like all 5 of these cards touched the cube. If for a moment, if for too long. And
none of them worked out as well as we thought.
One of them is even still in there.
Yeah.
What a weird year. So we only really elected cards. A lot of cards that got nominated in my direction that were, yes, bad cards, that were letdowns. But those cards we didn't actually end up putting in the cube, so I feel like we dodged the bullets there.
These are bullets we did not dodge.
We took these in the chest.
Yeah.
And we will continue to pay dearly for them. And I do like the Darksteel Mutation on the side over there. That one. The jury is still out on that card.
That one's got eyeballs on
it.
Sure.
White in the spell section still pretty loose.
Yeah, loose.
Still pretty loose. Like, I think Exile's like the next card to leave the cube.
And Chroma's Vengeance still routinely seeing.
It cycles. How could you complain?
For 3. All right. So, number 5, disappointing cube card 2013, Boros Charm. This is one where
maybe expectations were too high.
I think expectations were real high. I think a lot of people failed to realize, I think, was that this card didn't have 3 modes. It only had 2 modes.
Huh. What are the 2 modes?
Well, the 4 damage and then the indestructible.
I agree.
Because, very rarely was double striking better or more damage to your opponent than...
It's the cube format. Anytime you're considering playing a combat trick on a guy,
you have to get your head examined?
Maybe. I'm still a proponent of the giant growth. I just think that... yeah, that didn't happen.
Additionally, I think that red-white, especially at the beginning of the year, kind of what we were trying to focus on was having an aggressive red-white deck. Like Figure of Destiny and stuff like that. And over time, red-white kind of became the home of Wraths and Planeswalkers and Board Sweepers.
It's a very strange control deck.
Yeah.
It's a good one, but it's a strange one.
Right. Look at my rotisserie draft for, what we're talking about.
We'll see if you
and this just...
2-5 it or something.
This just doesn't play well in that format. That deck doesn't care about doming your opponent for 4. It doesn't care about double strike. It occasionally cares about making your permanents indestructible for wildfire cuteness.
I look at Boros Charm and I'm like, we don't play Flame Rift. We play this. That's good enough for me. I don't...
So, This is definitely one where a lot of people kind of thought it was going to be awesome, and
certain previewers might have lost their shit over it. You need to go find it, put it back in.
Number 4, Cube Letdown, Notion Thief.
A card I was definitely afraid of. A card I thought was going to take cards and then some.
This one looked like it was going to be the most backbreaking of all backbreakers. Activate Jace, gotcha!
That's the dream. That's the dream
Yeah,
we all
it's the
have.
dream.
We have it every night.
There's video proof of someone somewhere has done it. Swings his Revelation, or whatever, all these different spells. Notion Thief was just going to get them. It was going to be awesome. It's going to be like a win condition for blue-black.
I feel like I played this card a considerable number of times in Cube as well, and my anticipation moments were always like, when can I flash this Hill Giant in? When can I flash this Hill Giant in? Hill Giant!
This literally was just like wing shards a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, he
Like,
attacked. He attacked some.
Yeah.
He blocked more.
He very rarely drew cards.
Yes.
Very rarely. Like,
Often in games that you were already winning.
right. Like, he just didn't... It didn't seem to work out nearly as well as kind of everybody thought it would. I don't know if it was just because it's so easily telegraphed, or...
You hope that, any blue mage, they're keeping mana up, there could be any number of tricks going on.
It's true. But this one just, for whatever reason, just didn't really... And blue-black, the section has kind of... We've been looking for new cards for it. This one got bumped actually pretty quickly by Ashiok, who has been very good. So
I love that card.
yeah, very different, obviously.
If only it made lists this year.
Yeah. Number 3 on the list, Blind Obedience.
I feel like I almost dodged this one. I really didn't want to put it in the cube initially. I felt that
I'll take the blame.
Extort was just not going to get anything done. Now, ironically, when this card can attack and block, it's not that bad. Imposing Sovereign came around in M14, and I was like, you know what? Maybe these guys tag team in the situation. There's multiple occurrences. Now we bring in the Simic of Tides. We have another chance to extort stuff. Like, maybe we got a stew going. Ultimately, Blind Obedience just doesn't attack or block, and that is a pretty big problem. Because you kind of need it to in order for it to do anything.
Yeah, I was really excited about this card because I've been on a big Orzhov kick. I thought Extort was going to be great because Life Drain is really good in that deck. You draw a lot of cards with things like Arena and Bargain, so you want the life and yada yada yada. It just didn't end up doing enough. I think that
I definitely had to read it multiple times when my opponent had a cast against me, and I was like, so my lands enter the battlefield untapped? Because that's really all that matters right now. Right?
Yeah, it didn't do enough. I think that it's the kind of effect I want, but it just wasn't powerful enough, personally. So it just kind of just didn't perform up to my expectations, which were fairly lofty. Number 2 on the list. Oh God, what have I done? There we go. Steam Augury. This was the second coming of Fact or Fiction.
Exactly.
That was
just as spicy.
Everyone was just, it's just Fact or Fiction all over again. It's insane. You always, you can always get awesome cards. It's so many mind games. Like, you just trick your opponent out. You 1/4 split and then they don't know what to do. And
I'd rather have intuition most days of the week.
Yeah, the problem is that the Steam Augury is only good if your opponents are idiots. And that's a bad assumption to make.
Oof, and you're already beating them anyway.
Right. Like, you shouldn't need cards that, actively punish stupid opponents because that's what you need to beat them. Like, if that's what's happening, why aren't you already beating bad opponents?
I mean, if we needed more cards to enable, the increasing confusion deck, or if
that card is good enough on its own. That does not need enabling.
I agree. I'm just trying to think of, flashback spells where, because you always, the whole thing about Fact or Fiction is you always win. It always works out for you.
You either get what you want or you get all the things.
Right. With Steam Augury, you kind of have to work for it a little bit more, and we just never found...
You have to work for it a lot more.
All right.
I think that it requires a lot more, thought about how you split it, and no matter how much thought you put into it, if your opponent reads the game situation correctly, they could probably just break you with it. And it just ended up being like very unimpressive.
The thing about a reveal 5 is you're always going to hit a land drop, which can be important.
Yeah.
But at 4 mana, if you need to hit a 5th land drop, you need to hit a 5th land drop, how's that game going? I don't know.
So, that's number 2. So, drum roll, please.
Like, this one's hard.
Everyone
Everyone
should see this
hasn't
coming.
figured this out already.
Number 1, Aurelia's Fury.
Yeah.
Biggest disappointment of 2013.
I don't understand.
By a country mile, no
doesn't-
less.
It does everything.
But in reality, it does nothing.
Why doesn't it draw cards?
I just...
Sphinx's Revelation draws cards.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. This
If
one...
this card drew cards.
This card... I remember when this card got spoiled. I was, like, reading it. And I'm like, okay. X damage divided. I like that. Tap each creature. Sick. Player... What? There's just so much text on this card. It all does awesome stuff. Like, how is this not super insane?
It's not.
It's not. As anyone who has cast this thing will tell you, it just...
If you're using this to tap some dudes, you die next turn. If you're using this to dome your opponent, you're paying too much mana to do it. If you're using this as a bad Orms chant, things are also not going well for you.
So I think I had the best possible scenario with this card of the not dying, where I did it on my opponent's upkeep for like 7.
Just to their face, all 7?
No.
Oh, okay.
1 to their face, so they couldn't cast non-creature spells. I was at 2 life. So I ping them for 1, kill like 2 of their guys, and tap the other 3.
Sure.
And then he just untapped and drew Gitu Slinger and just like played it and killed me.
That's pretty fun.
Like, I was like, I did the maximum amount this card will allow me to do. It was like a 3-for-1, and I half silenced you and tapped the rest of your team, and I still died.
I played a Grixis control deck splashing white for Swords of Plowshares and Aurelia's Fury.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost a match to you where I cast this card for 17 targeting.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. It just died. This one was just everybody. I feel like we're not alone in this. Like everybody just flipped out. Everyone thought this was going to be so good.
Might have drawn a little bit of mana that game. Might have cast it off a Dark Ritual.
It was just
even still.
It was just everybody got this one wrong. Unfortunately, we are not alone.
Did we have any other honorable mentions in the category of cards that we put in? That didn't. No, I don't think.
Honorable mention to Underworld Cerberus for being the literacy check of the year.
Yeah, that card was underwhelming because it took me so long to realize it's not a card. I thought it was a card.
This card made it into Cube. You remember we talked about this. He was a big fan of it because
no one corrected me on the internet forever.
He thought the cards went from your graveyard
Creatures.
to play.
Yeah, Living Death on a guy.
He thought it was...
Even the card Rescue from the Underworld does the thing that in the story version flavor world this is doing. Like, the Hound dies and all the people leave the Underworld to the battlefield, not to the hand, which not good.
So this is one that, as soon as he realized what it did, game over. So it's honorable mention for reading comprehension on the list.
I think we dodged a lot of bullets this year on the topic of underwhelming letdowns, unfortunates. I think there are a lot of cards out there. So many cards got released this year that it could have been worse.
It's true.
But it thankfully didn't happen to us.
All right. So number 1, Aurelia's Fury. Congratulations, your trophy is in the mail. So top 5 now. Cards we are sad to see leave Cube. These are cards that have been near and dear to our heart for many years.
I think all 5 of these cards have been in Cube since Cube was a Cube.
They were pretty much all there from the beginning.
Yes, all 5 of these. All 5 of these cards. When I built a Cube, all of them were in here. This year, 2013, they pass on. Probably to never return.
Probably never return, and it's sad. We'll always have the memories. So at number 5...
Many memories.
Sad to see it go. Number 5, Genesis. Genesis was just the ultimate grinder forever.
It was so good.
It was so hard to beat.
It was so good.
You could never get out from under it. No matter what, The green deck was just getting guys
I know,
back.
gosh.
Couldn't slow it down.
Even as the blue mage, and you were just like, there aren't enough dissipates in existence to get past this
I can't counter all these creatures. They just keep coming back.
I know. I played Mana Source number 10.
God help you if you had some way to abuse it, like a sacrifice effect. Like
he keeps recasting Giant Solifuge or something.
Yeah. So
more cards that aren't in cube anymore.
Yeah. So this is one, you know.
Do you have a favorite Genesis memory since we're swan songing these bad boys?
Favorite Genesis? There's just been so many.
I mean, really, it's all about like this was the first thing you'd survival into your bin.
Right. I mean,
always
survival.
Always.
Survival pitching Genesis to go get Basking Root Walla. Pitch Basking Root Walla, put into play. Go get something else.
Could get like Utabi Orangutan or something.
Yeah, like this is a common. I'm a big fan of
Returning to
survival.
my hand for forbid. Really, the best stories were probably attack your opponent 5 times.
True, just Dirkwood Borzing them in the face.
Right, after they
not
they had withered wretched like everything, but you would save the Genesis.
Right.
You're like, all right, it's go time.
You sandbagged it, yeah. So, R.I.P. We put you in the boat on fire, Genesis. You'll be missed. Next up on the list, number 4, Exalted Angel, and really this is more of an R.I.P. In memoriam to Morph.
Morph, you live on in Crapcube though. You live strong in Crapcube.
You live strong. Exalted. There's now only one remaining Morph in cube, Blistering Firecat. He's not really there for his Morph.
He's a big cheater. Is what he is. Plus, every time someone plays a card face down, you're like, I didn't have triple red, did you?
Yeah. Exalted Angel, for years, was the pinnacle of efficiency. This was the card that the standard for which other decks compared win conditions. You know, going turn 3 into turn 4, made a 4/5 lifelinker was just real hard for a lot of decks to beat. Cards like Exalted Angel kept aggro red out of cube for years.
You would clone it, you'd go to town on people, your opponent would clone it, and then there'd be ships passing in the night.
Yeah. I'm sad to see Exalted go. I'm more sad to see Morph go because Morph is, I think, my favorite mechanic ever.
I enjoy the shell game as well, like
the bluffs, the stories that come from Morph always.
The All Morphs cube could be fun.
It could be fun.
We really need to. These are projects we need to work on for 2014.
So
no good Exalted Angel stories.
I mean, it was just the thing about Exalted Angel. It wasn't really
most of my good Exalted Angel stories are like constructed stories because I played that card in constructed.
It was just always, it was so solid, it's so consistent, so good. So, just again,
I would board in 4 of them against the creature decks.
It's really hard for a creature to last. It's really hard for a creature to last 10 years in cube, just because of the way. So creatures like this, where it's just like this was like the pinnacle of efficiency 10 years ago.
I can definitely remember trading Exalted Angel for 2 Wooded Foothills.
Yeah.
Not quite. It wasn't 2 Flooded Strands, and it wasn't 2 Polluted Deltas. It was more like 1.33 to that ratio back in the day. But definitely the non-blue ones, non-red ones. Windswept Heaths. You can almost go 3 for 1. Exalted Angel at one point. That might have been much.
Exalted
2
Angel.
and change. You'll throw a Sharpshooter in there.
You'll be missed. Next up, number 3. This is a more recent cut. Land tax. It finally happened.
Yes, the mayor of Dirtletown has moved on to...
That's him. That's the picture.
Collect his taxes from another city. A card that has been a backbone of many of my rotisserie cube drafts.
This card is in the backbone of many a deck that doesn't do anything.
Many a Scroll Rack, Balance, Sensei's Divining Top, etc., deck has met well with a land tax. But without the constructed environment, the land tax can lead to some really boring games. And it can manipulate some really bad players, and it could lead to some really shitty games with good players.
Yeah, no one really likes the 2-land Mexican standoff land tax games.
Dude, I'm ready for the 1-lander. I'll wait till I get the 2 spells I can cast on 1.
Nobody likes... and it just didn't, it didn't do anything.
The best is when Eck would go like turn 1 land tax and I'd go turn 1 Soul Ring. Like, go.
Yeah.
Would you like to play a land?
So, I just, this card, the especially cube magic has gotten too fast for land tax, and that's kind of a recurring theme for a lot of these. Is they're just no longer considered efficient, considered a worthy effect, considered worth the mana.
We seem to always kind of just be talking about the impending apocalypse of magic and the cube environment, where creatures will always just get better and better, spells will always just get worse and worse. We're going to be living the days of the 1-mana 3/3s. We just have to... It's going to happen eventually. We're all going to have to live there. And
Cube is just eventually going to be spells from 1997 and earlier, and creatures from 2018 and later, or whatever.
Oh, that's good timing. Yeah, so this is my number one for the year. To be honest, this is... Well, maybe the next one's my number one. Either way, we're really getting to some teary-eyed moments here with these cards.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when I'm going to cast Land Tax again, and that's what scares me.
Yeah. Number 2 on the list. Ah, that picture, we're getting that out of here. Sorry, guys. There we go. Number 2, Urnham Jin. It finally happened. Ernie had been hanging tough for what felt like years.
In many ways, I kept him on long past his prime. I signed him to a contract extension when he did not deserve the money.
Yeah, he was the face of the franchise for a long time.
He still never got to play center field like he wanted to, but he did get to attack quite a few times, so...
And this is just one, again, we talk about the changing of the guard when it comes to creatures and what is expected of them.
One of the best of all time, right here.
Lasted forever. It was strongly nostalgia influenced, but it was still good enough.
It lived through Wildfire.
Lived through Wildfire.
Forget not, sirs
Big
and
Butt
ladies.
cannot lie.
Yeah, blocked a great many creatures.
Sometimes it didn't even have a drawback.
Usually when people forgot, which was frequent.
Yeah.
As much as they should have been giving your opponents things the Forest Walk.
So, it's just, again, it's hard to look at Ernie as being valuable or powerful enough in a modern context.
It's great artwork, great expansion symbol.
Great, the whole thing, great. But
I can't imagine a world where this card will ever come back. Now that we live in a place where we're like, Deadbridge Goliath, that card's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, just getting like 5/5s with upside makes Ernie look a lot.
I know. Pelucrados came in and was like, I can eat stuff.
Yeah, Pelucrados is really the final dagger in the Urnham Jin category. Just, alright, now it's not even close anymore. Like, for a while it was kind of like...
Oh, no, we kept her. Like I said, I kept them on a lot longer than we should have.
Yeah. And the number one, this is the number one. Number one. Another green creature. Wild Mongrel. Let's get you back in your original colors, buddy. There you go.
Once considered the best 2-drop of all time.
For a long time.
How far Magic has come.
Efficient, one of the most powerful, enabler, dodges removal, can't beat it in combat, all of the above.
I think the fact that this isn't a list of 5 creatures is a little surprising.
Well,
considering the way Magic goes, but I can definitely remember. I mean, I remember playing Odyssey Draft, being like, this card's just too good.
Right.
Why does this exist?
It ruled standard.
Can't cast Tear on it. Can't cast Ghastly Demise, which is far more important.
It ruled standard. It ruled extended.
It ruled standard. It was very good in standard. Psychotog was also in the same standard environment.
Sure. It slowly kind of just withered away over time.
Yeah.
It just didn't age well. And that's just the problem with such an expensive ability. It's cards in your hand are worth a lot more these days than they did
maybe.
Well, I mean, cards are worse.
I think the thing that's changed is that cards in your graveyard are probably worth less.
I mean, that's certainly part of it too. I think that there's not like a lot of madness. There's not a lot of, and it just, a lot of more unconditional removal. Things like Ultimate Price. Or not, Ultimate Price.
Ultimate Price gets this
Go
bad
for the
boy.
throat.
Go for the throat gets this bad boy.
You can change the color.
Hero's Downfall gets this bad boy.
You can change the color no matter what, and it's still going down.
Yep.
So, I miss it. I have, I played Wild Mongrel in a ton of formats for a ton of years, and I think this is also the sign of the death of aggressive green decks.
Whoa. I mean, maybe.
Well, I think that Green
we got Strangler guys this year too, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Green aggro has shrunken from sight to a great degree.
I mean,
Wild Mongrel was also kind of a throwback to the days of Jungle Lion, Gazban over Wild Dogs.
But it did so many other things, like it enabled eugenesis, as we've talked about before. This one's tough. I mean, honorable mentions in this category, you got to go with Kakusho, the Evening Star. So long, big guy. You were not.
He kind of, as soon as Grave Titan showed up, Kakusho's days were numbered.
He lasted so long after that. Recurring Nightmare will always be a magic card.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what else we cut. I mean, it's
Crocodile. If discarding cards put +1/+1 counters on Wild Mongrel, would it stay in?
Oh yeah.
If the ability was permanent, lock it up. That would be
kind of like the Varol, like how Varols you can discard guys. Did you discard guys? You sack guys, but you can scrounge from the graveyard.
Yeah.
It still costs a lot of mana to do that. This would not cost a lot of mana. You understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Just pitch your hand, attack for 7.
Then next turn attack for 8.
Yeah. So, Wild Mongrel, you'll be missed, much like the rest of these lists. But now, we can move on.
The upside.
We go to the happy times. These are the best performing new cube.
The
Rookie of the Year countdown.
I like that.
So these are the rookies collectively of the year. So these are the best cards that we added from this year. So number 5, Firebreaker Crusader. No surprise, these are all actually very good cards that are probably going to be most cubes.
These cards are in your cube. They may have replaced cards that have been in your cube for a long time. They may be standing next to cards that have been in your cubes for a long time. Happy to team up for new adventures. Fire Drinker Crusader is one of those.
Jackal is still in. So when you give it another ability, I mean, clearly it's a slam dunk.
Well, we run 700 cards. We have a lot of cards. A lot of people when they look back on their year, they would say goodbye to Jackal Pup. We thankfully have room
for all the Jackal Pups.
That makes a deadly pyroclasm. But Fire Drinker Crusader, yeah. Being attacked for 3, being attacked for 4 a lot with this card is a big game.
Yeah. Anytime you get to pump this thing, it feels very good.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it hurts, it's a good hurt.
Oh, yeah.
You're pretty happy to hurt. So, number 4, and this one might actually be a bit contentious for people who think it should be higher.
Oh, I definitely think it's higher. True name Nemesis is Boss.
So, granted it's early. Commander 2013, is a fairly recent addition to the cube environment. So, this may, in retrospect, be, why wasn't this number 1? But so far, I have seen this in play and then killed 6 out of 8 times.
That it's been in play?
Yeah.
Did the other 2 times it entered play, their opponent just scoop with rage?
No. I mean, the game continued, but I think when True Name Nemesis got spoiled, rightly so, everyone looked at it as, well, this is insane. You'd never stop it.
It kept doing more things I didn't think it could do.
Yeah.
The fact that your planeswalkers that you control as your ally, flavor-wise, can't kill this thing is still a little unsettling.
Chandra can't shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Come on, you like high-fived her into play, like, hey, help a brother out, and she's like, I got this. Pew.
Yeah.
Like, no.
So, I think that True Name Nemesis in practice is more fragile than people expected.
And that almost makes it a better cube card, because that makes
it's more fair. I thought this card was going to be so stupid at first. Yeah. I was like, it's unstoppable. Don't put it in, it's like unfair. But in reality, there's enough ways for enough decks to deal with it. Now, obviously, like mono green guys is like very cold here, but that's just not commonly.
You can't even like Skylasher block it.
So most decks have some way of dealing with this, and I've seen it.
Can't fight
Chainer's Edict did. I've seen it. Wrath of God did. I've seen it. Toxic Deluged. It's typically white and black that have a better time of dealing with it.
Some of us have Chaos Orb this bad boy.
You can Chaos Orb it.
There's a
that
green
does work.
answer.
Look it up. There are enough ways of keeping this thing in check that it's certainly very good. And I'm not going to say that it's not. It's stellar. But I don't think it's the best, at least from what I've seen so far, not the best card from this year, personally.
All right. I think it deserves to be higher, but man makes lists.
I typed it, so.
Yeah, I'm at the mercy of him.
Number 3 on the list. Number 3, another blue card.
Blue.
Aetherling. The new Morphling. And about as powerful as old Morphling was under old rules.
Yep. Yep.
This one,
I don't even think I've even seen anybody increase this card's toughness yet.
No.
Like,
they just slide it out of play if that's everything.
It's anywhere near danger. Everyone's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Very Norrin the Wary-esque in that way.
Yeah, only...
The first sign of trouble, bailing. Yeah. One of the best blue win conditions, one of the best win conditions, period, for a control deck. If you've got the mana, he'll do the work.
So good, he's worth cheating into play.
I've seen people cheat him into play, ramp into him. He is the actual hardest card to stop, I think.
Yeah. This is one of the few times that I want to cast Necromancy as an instant.
He's actually harder to kill than True Nemesis.
Maybe. Depends on, if you had infinite mana, yes.
Well, I mean, if you ever on top of it
in a regular game of Magic,
yeah,
I think it's a bit more of a toss-up. But
he is a hard one to stop.
At this point, do you think there is a blue creature that costs more than 5 mana that's better than this card?
Blue
even
creature
comparable to this card? You're like, I don't know, I kind of want to Consecrate Sphinx some days of the week.
I mean, I kind of want to Frost Titan sometimes because sometimes I need to tap something. Like if your opponent has,
if you're trying to not die,
right? If your opponent has shot first, then Frost Titan is a good way to go over the top of that. But 9 times out of 10, Aetherling is the card I want if I'm playing blue. It's a slower blue deck. The thing's just ridiculous.
Thankfully, it's 700 cards. We've still got them all covered.
Yep. All right, number 2 in our list, a card I really like, has been excellent.
I'm not as sold on this one, but obviously we agreed it made the top 5 cards of the year, so...
It's basic, it's simple, but it gets the job done. Hero's Downfall, really, exactly was what Black needed. Black had a huge Planeswalker problem.
Yeah!
That is to say, Black without going into another color.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with Kenny, ironically, who's still in the chat, about this at length, where it's just not as satisfying because even though it's an instant, 99 times out of 100, they're going to get an activation out of the Planeswalker, and you kind of have to gauge how good that is. If your opponent casts Jace the Mind Sculptor, brainstorms, and you Hero's Downfall, it's still good, but it's not as satisfying as it could have been on a great many other things. So, in that regard, that's just a fault of the card-type Planeswalker. That's not a fault of the card Hero's Downfall. I think that having considered playing the card Murder briefly, and then seeing that this existed, it was kind of like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Yes. Garrux are going to die. Chandras are going to die.
Black, more so than almost any other color, had a lot of problems with Planeswalkers before this, and cards like Despise were not getting the job done. That's one of the reasons Vampire Hexmage is still in.
I like Vampire Hexmage.
It was just strictly because Black just got so hosed by Planeswalkers that you had to do something. They also have the least Planeswalkers themselves.
Yeah, that's still a problem.
They were losing the Planeswalker fight so handily.
I'm still just kind of considering putting in Liliana of the Dark Realms just because Black needs another Planeswalker. I mean, it costs less than 5 mana. I'm not gonna play Liliana Vest.
Sorin Markov.
Oh, so expensive.
So this is it's simple. It gets the job done.
More cards in this vein will help bring Black out of the cellar that it's in currently. I mean, there have been some musings online recently about attempting to integrate some Black Devotion into the cube environment. Grey Merchant has been thrown around as a card you may be able to play.
It's a lot better when you can go Lifebane, or then the Geralt's Messenger into Phyrexian Obliterator into Grey Merchant. That's certainly a very powerful line.
Yes, if only Liliana of the Dark Realms had one more loyalty.
If she didn't suicide to kill something when she came into play.
4 mana, sorcery speed, minus a few until the turn.
Embarrassing.
What are you going to do?
I almost feel like that card was misprinted. Because, how is it that bad?
Right. Yeah, it's not even like the Lake of the Dead ability is good.
No.
I'm sure I could talk to somebody and try to clear that one up. It was one of those cards that's so bad that something must have been changed.
Right.
Something was probably something more drastic than a loyalty. It probably, at one point, had a good ability.
And they're like,
11th hour that.
Yeah. All right.
Cube card of the year. And this one, now granted, Trinity Nemesis, there is some debate. I think this card is an easy number 2, if not actually number 1, compared to Trinity Nemesis. So that I give my ringing endorsement to.
I argue that this card gets there on how much it was needed.
Lifebane Zombie, Cube card of the year. Round of applause.
So here's the thing, before everybody grabs their torches and pitchforks and starts screaming about this card being number 1, you have to understand that this is a card that fit literally every possible thing Black wanted and needed at the time. It's a 3-drop, which Black is notoriously bad at having. Power, so it's an efficient. It has Intimidate, so it can get through combat, which a lot of Black creatures.
No one else is playing Black.
And it deals with white and green's better creatures efficiently. So this card works well. It's a zombie, so it works with cards, like Gravecrawler. It has a good enter the battlefield effect, so you can do things like...
The fact that it exiles and not discards is a huge deal. The fact that you just whisk something away to Never Never Land forever.
And this is a card that it was kind of innocuous, that we kind of were thinking it wasn't going to be as good when we first put it in, and it has overperformed to such a degree. And
that's a lot to do with the fact that Black is so lacking in the 3-drop spot that our expectations were so low and our wishes were so minimal that this exceeded all of them.
Right. This is a card that has been absolutely stellar and has been absolutely what Black needed.
Yeah, I don't think we ever spoke ill of it in any prior shows. Like, if you go back to our review of M14, we were very happy to see this card. We just thought it was going to be maybe a role player, not as continually good as it has been. Even just 3 mana, 3 power, cannot be blocked, peak is been a very good card. Like, there have been many times I've cast this card against Red Blue and been like,
so you don't ever commit into wrath.
I know exactly what's going on now. I'm great.
And I mean, anytime you get to either abuse the enter the battlefield effect or abuse the fact that it's a zombie, anytime you get to put equipment on it, which are only getting better, it's just been very, very good. And one of the things that I think why this is better this year, better cube card than Trinity Nemesis, is Blue didn't need Trinity Nemesis. If that card had never been printed, Blue's just fine. Blue's not really man, I really need an unstoppable 3-drop. Black really needed a 3-drop period. And this one just was so far and above what anyone was even asking for that it really kind of gets the nod for me. And that's kind of why...
I mean, I don't want to give it card of the year because Black is so bad and expectations are so low. I do want to say that this card is doing a lot. And, had Black had a multitude of 3-drops like a different color that does have a multitude of 3-drops. Not sure what color that is. Blue? Then it might be a slightly different story, but still a story in favor of Lifebane Zombie.
This card was an absolute godsend for Black.
There you have it. I mean, we can't ask for anything more than that. Any other honorable mentions in your cards of the year for Cube? I think Toxic Deluge is an excellent removal spell.
Toxic Deluge is excellent. I am a big fan of Sire of Insanity. It took me a while to kind of come around on that, but
that is a surprise to me.
It is. I would consider an up and comer.
Okay.
It's on the rise.
Okay.
I think that Sire is, now that I have played it and put it into play and seen the effect that it has on the game, very powerful, very good.
I think of anything else.
Big fan. I like.
Were huge home runs from the last year. The problem is that we didn't have Return to Ravnica released this year, so that really put a damper on how many amazing cube cards there were, since we only had
Pelucranos.
I'll give 6-mana Elspeth a nod here. Yeah,
6-mana Elspeth.
Definitely a card that looked like it was overcosted and looked like it was going to be not as impactful as it is.
That 3 tokens a turn is a lot to get through.
On the plus side, yes. So it's a card worth tapping out for.
Yes.
I think that's really what did it.
I plan on doing that in the rotisserie draft.
I plan on killing you before you will ever bother to do that. Not so much Soldier of the Pantheon.
Soldier of the Pantheon, he's a fine role player.
He's just upstaging some Elite Vanguards.
Right, he's just making Elite Vanguard
in a tiny little mild way that's almost annoying.
Right.
Gate Crash was surprisingly good, actually. I mean, I think the Gate Crash, as far as constructed and overall Ravnica block was kind of underwhelming. But looking back on it for Cube, it was a fine set. I mean, it was so hard to come off the high of Return to Ravnica and feel like you were going to have enough stuff to fill in what your expectations were. But I think there were plenty of cards there.
Voice of Resurgence has been very good. You don't like that card, I know.
Did anyone draft it? Did George draft it in our draft?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
will have to remember that.
Yeah.
He took it super late, too, like a 38th round.
Yeah, well, he was the only green-white...
Oh, that was Tobias. That's not
thing.
George.
Yeah.
No, I'm less worried about that. He can't cast that card. He doesn't have the Green Sun Zenith either.
Yeah, so, there, anyway.
Young Pyromancer was good. It was a little more of a role player. Maybe a bit of an enabler.
It has a lot of potential. I think its potential has not been fully realized.
Oh, Chandra Pyromaster. That was one we were kicking around, too. I guess that's worth mentioning. Yeah, Chandra Pyromaster.
Interesting. I would almost put that in the other category of cards that we ranked for this year.
Really? I think we were so down on it when it came out.
I mean, it was the most boring vanilla milquetoast thing I'd ever seen in my life.
But the funny thing is, you see it played in a lot of games, and it's never bad. It's never bad, Eck. Come on.
It's sometimes bad.
What? How? Like
it just doesn't do anything?
Like you cast it and then you died? Because if you cast 90% of the other Magic cards, you also would have died? Then yes, sure, it's a bad card.
I'm just saying.
I feel like I've gotten plenty of card advantage out of that card this year. But if we have to think about it that hard, we probably reached the end here. God, we're so rusty at this. We didn't even manage to fill 100 minutes of people's time.
I know. It's been hard. So you think we'd have more to talk about?
Yeah, well, it's the end of the year. It's the holiday season, so even Magic is starting to pull it off a little bit.
All right, Christmas wishes.
Oh.
What do you want for Cube Christmas?
Don't want to save that for next week's episode?
We could.
How about the cards? We'll tease for next week because we're that good.
We also have to come up with New Year's resolutions for Cube. Just go to all holiday thematics all the time.
Well, I mean, you should do that.
Yeah.
Was it like personal resolutions? Like, I will no longer first pick Counterspell every single time I open it?
Something like that, yes.
Hopefully this is not the last episode of the year. In fact, considering what day it is right now, and considering what activities I know we have planned for the rest of the calendar year, I can almost guarantee we'll be back here before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because there's at least one Anchorman 2 drinking night planned.
That movie's going to be so bad. I mean, I'm going to go see it. I'm going to give them my money. But I'm mostly giving them money because Anchorman 1 was so funny. I feel I haven't given them enough.
It was all about that day that we mostly soberly watched it back to back. And I think people came over and we just put it back on again. We were doing a lot in our lives back then.
Yeah. There's a lot of unemployment going on.
That was way before that.
Yeah.
You were gainfully and school-ployed.
Yeah, I was school-ployed.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll make promises of an end-of-year wrap-up type nature. I feel like we wrapped up a lot of things this year, so we'll come back with...
we'll look forward.
Yeah. No more back.
No more back. Only forward.
Only forward.
The past is the past. So now we're going into the future.
Yeah. And with the holidays, hopefully a lot of people have enough free time. We can organize some more of these fun drafts. I'd like to think that before the end of the calendar year, we can... Play the matches.
Hopefully,
maybe run another
one
of these drafts and then play those matches because obviously this draft was so wonky. I mean, like I'm gonna crush casually. I'm not worried about that.
Oh, bold statements.
Wait, dude, take if you're listening to this, take a look at these deck lists, these card lists. You tell me which one looks the best because I gotta tell you, even though I would have traded with Tobias very early in the draft. After it was all said and done, I'm very happy to have my pool of cards for this particular draft.
I'm just not seeing it.
Like, look at your deck. You're so draw dependent. You can't carve out a good hand.
I just have an infinite. Anyway, we're not getting into this.
Yeah, I know.
So, in any event,
need to redo the Skeleton Cube, but that will actually be a 2014 endeavor. I'll probably wait for Born of the Gods to come out, and then do it then.
Okay.
Well, then the temples will be in, so we can reassess the dual land situation.
Makes sense. Okay.
Plus, it's like beginning of the year. Like, if we do it now, and then like one more new set comes out, maybe there's some cheap alternatives and things.
Sure.
Like, obviously, we want to keep dropping the price down on that thing. Take out the Karakas, take out the Jason the Mind Sculptor, take out any other cards that have gone egregiously through the roof since we initially made that list.
That might have happened.
Because at the time when we made it, there was no card over $95 or whatever.
Yeah. But who knows now?
Yeah.
Also, the Rotisserie Cube draft will go on the website along with this episode.
Your feedback is important because we came together this evening because of the hounding of the internet that we were so busy for some of us, that we did not have the opportunity to get together to do these things. So if you want more of it, we're definitely going to make the time to do that.
Busy, lazy.
Right. We finally got Edmund his payment from 9 months ago to do us a logo. Now it's going to do some easy mock-ups, and then hey, we'll start small.
A year later, we'll be like almost a real thing.
Yeah, we'll start small. We'll get a logo, do a little design there. Maybe we'll tap Little Matty Studios. Then we'll get in the merch game where everyone wants to be.
Okay.
I mean, it's either that or beg for money from people on the internet
That's true.
to help us do things like continue some hilarious Eck Power Cube drafts into the holidays, to hopefully bring you some more of this video coverage that I really want to hire the people I work with to be able to do, but I can only incentivize them so much with burritos that cost me out of my pocket. So, again, we have a donation link on the blog page as well as the bottom of the Twitch page. So if you do feel so inclined, that will be put to good use.
Christmas spirit, etc., etc.
As you tune in the coming weeks to watch Eck play some great Powered Cube draft, I don't want to miss those. I had a great time with those last year. Drafted some amazing decks. My favorite was the...
We gotta get you streaming.
I'm just too lazy. I had 8 Planeswalker deck last year. It was so good. It was like one of the only decks that didn't have... I still have a picture of it. It didn't have any blue in it. It was insane.
Anyway.
It had a moat in it.
Anyway,
you get the idea. I won't drag this on any longer. You can reach Eck at YoungMecha on Twitter. You can reach myself at Tristan Gregson on Twitter. You can email us at draftcube@gmail.com. Am I missing anything else?
I don't believe so.
Eckemon.
Follow us on Twitch.
Eckemon.blogspot.com. Please do favorite us on the Twitch page. Subscribe if you're over on YouTube. Leave comments. Let us know what you think about things, because we definitely read them. We see them. And we're out.